And so we have with us, when Brother Roy brings me my tape, I call him a great giant, quiet spoken brother, but says a lot when he begins to speak. And it's important that you all will take notes, write it down, be prepared tomorrow to be here at 10 o'clock, be ready for Sunday, and then try to get all the tapes, play the tapes, so they can strengthen you and make us better. Let's bring to the podium our dear brother and friend, a great traveler for Minister Farrakhan, the word spreading of the truth. Let's bring to the microphone Brother Minister Jabril Muhammad.
Beneficent and merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but He, and Muhammad, His servant. Brothers and sisters, I'm very honored, first blessed to get here alive. A lot of people who were here today, yesterday rather, are not here today. So I'm thankful first of all for that. When you get up in a plane, when white people are piloting the plane, they just tell you what they're going to do. I mean, they leave God totally out of the picture. We're going to do this, and this, and this, and this. It doesn't happen like that. They said that the plane was due in from Orlando, Florida. It would be here about 11 o'clock. We clean it up, and we will get on it at 11:15, and it'll be on its way. It didn't even take off at 12:28. It's better to be humble. It's better to really talk strong about what you really have some say-so over. And that which you don't have any say-so over, leave it to the one who has power over that. The Muslim pilots, they pray before the plane takes off. They beg Allah for help. There's a world of difference. Now, brothers and sisters, I don't really have a subject as such. I just want to tell you what's in my mind. A very general overview for the next 2 days. But for tonight, I want to raise this question. And I hope that you make your label like this. Does God study? Question mark. Why? Question mark. 2 questions, okay? And I want to ask you, we don't have the microphones to float around. If you want to help me with some of this, I appreciate it, because I'll just randomly ask a few of you a couple of questions. Does God study? To a lot of people, just raising that kind of question seems to denigrate God. But it does say that God makes judgments, doesn't it? This great day called the Day of Judgment is the day of God's judgment. Well, what precedes judgment? If you arrive at a judgment, then prior to that you were not judging. Right? If you arrive at a decision, God makes decisions, does He not? Well, at what point does He make a decision? Is the decision from way back before the party was even ever born? How far back does His decisions go? Is there a point in time when He makes a decision? The Bible and Quran says there's certain circumstances when God changes His mind. Have you ever heard of that? Did you read that? Did you ever read where God reflects? Where God muses. You know what the word muses mean? Go look it up. M-U-S-E-S. So does God study? Well, if you take exactly what we've been taught, if you already are acquainted with it, you know He does. But suppose you were new to this teaching or didn't know it. The idea of God studying might sound weird, and even might sound like you putting God down or reducing Him to the level of men and women, common people, ordinary people. Do you study? You have a job?
Yes, sir.
Is it something beyond washing dishes?
Yes, sir.
Washing dishes doesn't require a PhD, does it? Have you ever swept the floor?
Yes, sir.
Does it require a great deal of study to sweep a floor? But it does require more knowledge to clean a floor, a terrazzo floor, or a floor in one of these big buildings, doesn't it? You can't clean them any old kind of way. So the more difficult or the more skill that's involved in the thing that you're doing, then the more knowledge you have to have. Now, to become a surgeon like Dr. Alaikuum, can you become a surgeon after 3 weeks?
No, sir.
Have you ever gone, or would you go to a dentist who hung his sign out saying, I just graduated after 15 minutes experience, and I'm in the school about four weeks. Would you go to that person to have him work on your teeth?
No, sir.
Why? Why? Because of what you've heard about how long it takes a person to become a dentist. Probably none of us in this room are dentists. Huh? Okay. Now, not counting her. The rest of us just would not really know how long does it take to learn the mouth. But you would imagine it takes a while to learn. And you would not go to a dentist's office if he just got out of school and had worked on maybe 2 sets of teeth and only went to 2 months of school. Will you trust the person who was driving an 18-wheeler who only had 1 day of experience and 2 days of training? There's a lot of things that you do. What do you do for a living, brother?
For a hotel.
What do you do?
I'm a bellman.
Bellman. That requires some intelligence, because if you frown at people, then you get fired. You have to have some nice exterior, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you do, brother?
Computer, network engineering.
Okay, network engineering. What do you do, sister? You do what? Okay, you're in school for cosmetology. What do you do, sister? Director of musical theater. Now that requires far more skill than sweeping a floor, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
What do you do, brother?
Security.
Security. What do you do?
I'm in security for the World Bank.
You secure the bank. The World Bank on top of it. Okay. What do you do, brother? Yeah. Well, what did you do? That's okay. What did you do before that? And if money was no object, what would you prefer to do?
Okay.
If money was no object and you had the time, what would you study to do? Medicine. What kind of medicine?
Renal medicine.
What kind?
Kidney disease.
Kidney disease. That requires skill, doesn't it? So what am I touching? I'm touching a couple of things. Number one, human beings have to acquire knowledge. And the more complex the thing is that you want to do, then the more education you have to have and training. Not just knowledge, but then you have to do something, you have to repeat, so that you can develop a skill, so that you can do this thing without hesitation, so that people don't die. In the case it's maybe an emergency, you're rushing somebody to the hospital, whatever. You see my point? Now, brothers and sisters, of all the things that are difficult to do, what is the most difficult thing? Can you imagine? What would you say, just off the top of your head? Yes?
Self-discipline.
Self-discipline? Anybody else want to take a guess at it? Or what do you think is it? What comes to your mind as a hard thing to do? Just name it. Pardon me? Regulate the heavens and the earth. That's an interesting job, isn't it? What else? It says it tires him not, huh? In the scripture. What else? Okay, now there you hit it. Listen to this. Little simple piece of logic. Everybody's doing something every day in the week. Whether it's the thing they would like to do or not. They're doing something. Of all the things that, well, some people can do some things easier than others. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, as you progress, I'm making this short, as you progress up or down or across the ladder of difficulty, you find fewer and fewer people able to do that thing, whatever it may be. When you get to the last thing, you find almost nobody. And that is something akin to going out to the graveyard. Do you have graveyards in this city?
Yes, sir.
How long would it take you standing out there in a warm day, summertime, on a nice comfortable couch or something? How long would it take you with a bullhorn to get someone to come up out of the grave? How long would that take? Would you consider that impossible? All right. Then if you back away from that and ask what is next to that, that's raising the dead spiritually.
Right.
Get the point?
Yes.
Now, in no city, none of us, Chicago might be the closest, In no city do we have attending on a regular basis. But you know we're going to be there every Wednesday, every Friday, every Sunday. Our quote-unquote quota of the 144,000 that the prophets saw, that at least that many would be predisposed. When they hear the teaching, they say, I accept. At least that many people are predisposed to listen to and accept this. Okay? Now, do you consider yourself the chosen of God? I'm talking about you in this room. Or do you have doubts about it? Yes, you do. Your attendance is like everybody else's attendance. It flip-flops. But have you ever thought that possibly you personally were handpicked by God? You personally were seen long time before you were born, and there were circumstances, course corrections, whatever, that went on by God in your life right up to the point where you came and heard this teaching. And even if you didn't accept right then, there was extra help being administered to you by people you don't even know and don't even know how to contact. I'm not talking about the brother and sister or people that you saw, your friends, relatives. I'm talking about people that you don't know, have never met, who helped you in the process of accepting this. Have you thought of it just like that? And the problem with us who follow Minister Farrakhan is we don't know who the hell we are. As I hope to bring out clear tomorrow, we can never learn our individuality, who we are as persons, our own person. This person, that person, that person, that person, unless you first get clear on our collective identity. You will never get straight or clear on your individual identity unless you have thoroughly accepted our collective identity. And neither can be done without some study. Now, if the resurrection of the dead, and we didn't take a lot of time to prove it, but it can be proven, and absolutely proven, is the hardest thing. It's next to the impossible. John Muhammad said one day, God can't lie. To get born, you have to have a mother and a father. And when you really showing up dead, you ain't not coming back. Notwithstanding the fact that we got some high-tech Muslims in the country, here and there, who say they're the followers of Minister Farrakhan, who have some kind of Ouija board understanding about coming back. But the reality is, once you are really, really, really dead, you never come back. Now that's straight up hard reality, which once thoroughly digested, develops a greater appreciation for life.
Yes, sir.
And those things that keep you on the planet. Got that? When you really know that when you're dead, you're gone forever, that eating one meal a day will keep you here much longer than 2, 3, or 4 times a day. And it's not worth it to get so worried and frustrated and stuff that you say, well, I got to solve this by eating. That's going to take me out of here. Then your attitude changes, doesn't it? You find yourself picking up how to eat to live more often. And every now and then you read it, wow, I didn't see that. That ever happened to you?
Yes, sir.
It happens. I've been in the nation 45 years. It still happens. Now look, my dear brothers and sisters, this is one of the biggest problems we got right now. We don't know who the hell we are. We don't. You ask Muslims really on the QT, do you really feel you was chosen? And privately, I don't know. You don't even know one way or the other. That's bad. You see, God hit 1,000 when he chose Elijah Muhammad. He hit 1,000 when he chose Louis Farrakhan. And the rest of us are rough guesses. You have insulted the intelligence of the Lord of the worlds. If in fact you really believe that Master Farad Muhammad is the one who came to build that which will never die. And you and I are in a building tonight, right?
Yes, sir.
Didn't it take a knowledge of material to build this building?
Right, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Do you think you can build a world that's going to last forever and be only intelligent about 2 men? You've insulted God every day of your life that you're in the nation that you think like that. And you're insulting yourself. You're insulting and putting down the very process that brought you into being, that God himself initiated. Have you thought of it just like that? Now, how many of the names of the gods of the past do you know? I'm giving you a piece of homework. I want you to bring that answer back tomorrow. And by the way, I'd appreciate it. We're going to be here at 10 tomorrow. 10 means 10. We respect the beast. You know who that is. It's not a bad word. Beast is not a bad word. If you love making a living and you know that if you're late, you get fired, you're on time for a lot of other things, then be on time for this. Okay? So 10 o'clock means you get here before 10.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Not everybody getting here 5 minutes to 10. And to show you how serious it is, let me lay this on all of you. Those of you who are laborers and those of you aspiring to be government officials in the kingdom of God. Because that's what this is about. That's what this is. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that one day, some believers will lose their salvation behind late laborers. That makes it very serious. I just thought I'd put that on your mind. Okay? Now look. How many holy Qur'ans have been written during roughly the last 66 trillion years? I want you, since you already know, you've already got the information, you've been here long enough to know, most all of you, that these histories are written once every 25,000 years, right? So divide 25,000 into 66 trillion. Do that later on tonight. Tell me what figure you come up with. And where are those books? How long will it take you to read them? How long will it take you to read such books? Maybe you can't answer that. But where might such books be stored? Maybe you can't answer that. You might have a guess. You've got material in your books, in your literature that might give you a guess about that. But you can get a pretty fair assessment, or figure rather, about dividing 25,000 into 66 trillion. That means that one person acted as judge of the writing of the other 23 times 66 trillion times, right?
Yes,
Or times a number of times. Times 25,000 into 66 trillion. Did you get that?
Yes, sir.
Want me to say it again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many times have these 25,000 year histories been written in the last 66 trillion years? Well, you find that out by dividing 25,000 into 66 trillion. It gives you a number. Not that those men lived 25,000 years, but at least tells you what happened in the year one. Now, the same number you're going to come up with is the same number of men who acted as judge over those writings, correct?
Yes, sir.
How many men? How many men? What's the number? And how come you don't know their names? We haven't got nothing like that in this teaching, nor have we ever gotten a promise that we would know their names. We know the name of Yaakov. He didn't write the history of the last 25,000 years. He didn't act as judge over writing. Yet we got his name, don't we? We know his name. And it's one of the most popular, or the most popular man's name, at least by what I saw as of 2 weeks ago. The most popular man's name in America is Jacob. Next is Michael. According to what white folks said in the Cleveland newspaper. Now, why am I asking you something like that? It's to stimulate your mind along a certain line that I hope that we can progress with tomorrow. Have you ever thought about that? And you have on page 100 to page 122 of Message to the Black Man that you have already read and mastered, memorized by heart just about, that prior to 66 trillion years ago, those histories were written for 35,000 years, right? How far back? How far back? Roughly how far back? I want you to give me some figures tomorrow, because we're going to deal with this. I want you, brothers and sisters, I hope that I can stretch your mind a little bit. Now, how long do you want to meet here tomorrow? From what I heard, that you wanted me to come and start tomorrow set at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I told Minister Cody, I won't do that. You're putting a strain on me that I'm not going to accept. You don't know my condition, my health condition. You don't know what I've been doing. I'm not going to accept that. That means already that you don't want to accept the fact that inviting me here means an inconvenience. It means, to some degree, a disruption of your schedule. I didn't come here to make a 2-hour talk. I didn't come here to make talks or speeches at all. I came to make a difference. And you do that by means of speech. But I'm not coming here to talk no 2 hours. Hell, I could have stayed where I was, where it was 80 degrees. It's 19 damn degrees here. talking about? You know?
Yes, sir.
I came here to work you, work myself and work you. I don't intend for tomorrow's meeting to be less than 4 hours. If you can't hang with that, then leave. Don't even come out tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
But I prefer to go 6 hours. It's going to take a lot out of me, but I'm not making a speech. What I want to cover, I can't do in 4 hours.
Come on. Yes,
Can't do it.
sir.
If I just went right to the point that I want to get to and deal with what I want to deal, and you see this if you're here. Now, if you don't like what you hear in the first hour, go home. Watch the football game or whatever's going to come on. I know you got to sell papers, brother. There were some brothers in a certain city who complained. Jabril had a 10-hour seminar. Jabril spoke 10 hours, which was a damn lie. Jabril spoke 10 hours. The minister said if he did, you needed it. Told him right to their face a couple of years ago. I didn't talk 10 hours. It was a seminar. And look, let me tell you something. You can't and I cannot pay for this teaching. If tomorrow's meeting comes out good,
All right.
we're there a few hours, you go home, you ask yourself, what could you pay for this? I asked Brother Mark in North Carolina, who works that kind of thing, he Speakers Bureau. I went and did what I did there, 10 talks in 6 days. At the end of maybe 5 or 6 of them, I asked Brother Mark, how do you figure this? How do you figure out what a speaker is worth? How do you figure all that kind of stuff? And what I did that you heard me do so far, how much would a person get paid for doing what I did? And he laughed. He said, oh man, he wouldn't even know how to figure that. He said, brother, he was scratching his head. He said, well, maybe look, my Angela gets $50,000 for saying some poetry. What's his man? The general's name. Colin Powell gets $75,000 for making a speech that says what? So the point we were both making from different angles was you can't pay for this. And you could never pay me for the little that I know, that I've accumulated since 1955. No way in hell you could pay me. If you gave me all that you got, that's not enough. Would it be very much? Huh? Come on, let's be real. If Master Farad Muhammad did the study and came here and worked a certain man up to a point, the proper point, where he could meet him and talk with him and fill him up, then that man has experience for years with the word. And then at a certain point he consciously works on Minister Farrakhan. Hey, you can't pay for that. What do you think went into Minister Farrakhan to make a call that produced the Million Man March? The word came out of his mouth not long before it happened. But what happened leading up to that? How much would you pay for the Holy Quran? Go back there 15,000 years ago. Meet the scientists who wrote the Quran. How much would you pay them? They go on a fast, maybe 14, 15 days. Then they begin to confer. They begin to write. This man looking thousands of years in advance. How much do you pay somebody for that? You don't pay them. So what do you do about it? You study. There's nothing you can give. What could you give Minister Farrakhan for giving your life? Say, well, I'll make you a trade. What could you give him? A bowl of soup, or 50 bowls of soup, or $1,000? You buy him another car. He got all the cars he wanted. You know, another suit. He can open up a store right now. What are you going to give him? That would satisfy him. Nothing. The only thing that satisfies that man is the successful completion of what he's about. So I put in the paper straight up, and I put it in a different form for this room. You were born into the Nation of Islam for 2 broad purposes. One, to help Minister Farrakhan, straight up. I don't care if you were here prior to 75 like myself. You were brought back or brought up in it, either way it goes, to help that man. And you can't help him ignorant. You must know him and know his assignment. And then you must continuously update yourself, because he's steadily growing. You must know how to defend him, but you can't defend him unless you can first explain him, and you can't explain him unless you first know him. Agree?
Yes, sir.
So on our simple level, we need to study, don't we?
Yes, sir.
But does God study? You say, well, Master Farad Muhammad study. Well, how does he study? How does a man study to be able to bring to the rest of us the origin of the first man, how the first man got himself together? He pulled 10,000 parts together or elements to make one atom. What the hell do we know about that? Was he conscious when he did that? How conscious were you at the point of conception? Your conception. After 4 or 5 months, were you conscious? You reacted. We reacted in our mother's womb. She could put thoughts in our mind and shape us up. But how much of that were you and I conscious? How many of us remember the very moment when you and I were born? Passed through the birth channel. If you raise your hand, you're outright lying. You can say you had a dream. That could just be anything. You don't know nothing about that. How much do you remember the first 6 months of your life? So you were not conscious, were you? But here we have a teaching that takes us back into the first God's subconscious. And nobody disputes it. All the critics of Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan, they never deal with the basis of where we're coming from, do they? They deal with superficialities, or they set up straw man arguments, knock them down and say they won.
Right.
No. Or pretend that we chose one team over another team. I'm sure how ridiculous it is. It's like we chose, I don't know, who's playing tomorrow the next day, I don't know. Whatever. Team A, Team B, and Team A beats Team B, and they'll associate us with Team B and say, well, we won, yours wrong. We got nothing to do with that. They bring up matters or situations that have no connection with what Muslims are all about. And then some of us are so lightweight, we get all emotionally involved because some critic don't like us. So what? There's people writing books all the time. Megiddo and this one and that one. So what? So why should you get all wound up because somebody put in the book that they don't like you and think you're a liar? Why not do like the Holy Quran says, pass by them nobly? But you can't pass by them nobly if you have a lightweight knowledge of what you say you believe in. So I'm not challenging your belief, not today or not tomorrow. I didn't come here to do that. I hope to stretch your mind. And I start you off by asking you to go home tonight and think about it. How many of these judges of the writings were there? They're gods. How many of them were there? How many? Does God have to study to maintain his position as supreme being? You ever thought about it? One day I thought about it. I had never thought about it before. I thought about it then. I said, wow, that's an interesting question. Do you have to study?
Yes, sir.
You say, well, we're not him. But if you stay in this teaching, we know from this teaching, from what we've heard, this teaching grows you. That's where you're going. A full developed brother and sister is a god or a goddess. Unlike the way we are right now. The brother who mentioned self-discipline, who was that? The brother over here. Discipline is like her name. Hard to come by. That's what is said by one rabbi one day about what the word means in that language. Something that's hard to come by, but it's worth it, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Can you accomplish anything that you can think of without first having knowledge? Forget the practice and the discipline, everything else. Knowledge. Now, wouldn't you like to, before you leave the planet, get acquainted with all the powers of your being?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would not you love to have the opportunity to explore every power that you were born with?
Yes, sir.
Why not? Why live an unexplored, dull, ignorant life? All of you want to be rich, don't you? But if you're not knowledgeable, you can't hold on to the riches that you gain. Then if you were rich and yet ignorant of yourself, you'd live a poor, miserable life. You'd be happy for a couple of days. All of us in here have been poor all of our lives. I don't care what you got. The richest brother or sister here, and you make a lot of money in this city, you're still poor compared to what you should have. And even what you got, you know it's not enough. How many paychecks are you away from being in the street? I mean, and in your bank account, do you have about $4.5 million?
No, sir.
So, aren't there a lot of white folks that got millions or $797,000, something like $700,000, $800,000?
Right.
And they be wrestling with where to invest 5 or 10 grand.
Right,
Most
right.
of us don't have no money. You can't invest 5 or 10,000 in nothing. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So you're poor, right?
Yes, sir.
Look, by the way, if anybody did anybody take BET last night? I need to get that before I leave. That's a heavy program. I'll talk about that tomorrow. But if you know anybody who's connected with that station, I mean, maybe somebody the audience. That was a powerful program. We had an African brother who was the symbolic king of Togo, saying that Africa should apologize for the brothers and sisters in this country as a first step or a major step toward tightening our relationship. It was a beautiful statement. And they had the brother Randall Robinson on. Dead, you know. Don't you think we should get paid? You wonder why it is that you came in the Nation of Islam and you read where Allah would fatten up your pocket, seemed like all at once upon submission. You said, well, I came and I submitted, I didn't get paid yet. You read that part, didn't you? Have you submitted yet? Look, if there's a course of instruction that has, let's say, 12 parts to it, and you've only done 9, how do we know what you're going to do with the other 3? You might bail out on God. Have you thought of it like that? You know, our problem is we're short-sighted, plus we're narrow-minded. Short-sighted, narrow-minded. Now I'm going to ask you right now, does God study? 5 more minutes, does God study? Why? Who can tell me that he studies, but why? What makes you say that? I've already helped you with it. Sister in the back? You. Sister, Poppy, I don't know your name. Does God study? Why? What does it do for him personally? Makes God better. God can get better? That's an interesting statement, isn't it? Can God get better? By what? By means of what? Explain yourself.
Come on closer to the microphone.
That's okay. No, that's okay. She says yes, but I'm going to do this very quickly. I want you to go home thinking. This makes you think?
Yes, sir.
Does God study? You don't have to come all the way up, sis. That's okay. The question is, my sister, you said she had a thought in her mind. It makes him a better person. Can God get better? And better and better and better? You're not sure. That's what I want. I wanted to upset your thinking. You ain't been thinking about God recently. Not deep, have you? Can God get wiser?
Yes, sir.
Who's teaching him? Any opinion about that? Huh? You and I got to interact with something outside of ourselves. Another person, a book, a whatever. Some parts of the creation. Are you independent of everybody else? Are you independent of everybody's knowledge? Now, if you are God, you're absolutely independent. Then where are you growing? How are you growing? Where is the basis of that kind of growth? I think if you come out here tomorrow, come on time, and come ready to deal, I think you may wind up like some of the believers in Cleveland. They told me that after that session we had on Saturday, many of them said they couldn't sleep, though they came into the meeting Sunday wide awake. I got something like that for you, if it pleases Allah. If it don't please him, I'll do the best I can anyway. Papa says, I don't want you just to stand there. I don't want you to think about this. You said God is a man. Is he like a Negro? He's not like a Negro? Tell me 2 or 3 areas where he differs from a common, ordinary Negro. Just a regular Negro. Not lazy. God is industrious? What else? I guess you, huh? He's independent, he knows himself. Independent of what? You're not too sure about what you're saying, are you? Huh?
I would say he's independent of his own.
Independent, but yet he created himself with needs, otherwise he wouldn't have produced woman, right? Think about what you're talking about now. The first man came here, he had some problems he had to deal with, externally and internally.
Right.
But he created himself with needs, but with the capacity to satisfy his own needs. You and I are like that? Huh? In unity, in a sense, we're like that. Are we not?
Yes, sir.
Is this causing you to scratch your head a little bit?
Yes, sir.
If we are on a road that leads to the full resurrection of ourselves, resurrection also means what? Full self-development, does it not? What's at the end of the road? What is that? God. What's your conception of yourself being perfect? And how far away is that from your present conception of God? I'll say it again, I'll ask it again. What's your present conception of yourself as a perfect human being? And how does it differ or agree, either way, with your present conception of the Supreme Being? Silence in the house. We may have an interesting weekend, maybe. If nobody shows up, fine. All of you show up, fine. Where's Brother Mr. Carlos? Please, let's try to get at least 50 years.
Yes, sir.
Don't lie to him.
Yes, sir.
Let's get 50. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to end my comments with this. You and I cannot help Minister Farrakhan nor ourselves nor each other ignorant.
Yes, sir.
One thing Minister Farrakhan emphasized is restart of the nation. You can't walk with me if you're just going to remain dumb. You know that. So now, if that's so, and it is, do any of us have a right, therefore, to miss meetings? I don't care who's teaching. I don't care what they're talking about. You can't say with truth. You can lie. But you can't say with truth that you come to a meeting and gain nothing out of it. Unless you're bored. And you're bored because that's something you did to yourself. There was a young sister a few years back. Her mother called me and told me that her daughter, brilliant young sister, was about to drop out of school. She had just a few months to go, 6 months, whatever, because she was bored. Muslim children generally are bored with the devil's educational system. She was bored. So I talked with the young sister on the phone. We talked about 90 minutes. Guess what the subject was? Boredom. I discussed with her why she was bored so deep it made boring interesting. We dealt with boredom. And after a while she got very interesting in these boring teachings and these boring subjects, so much so she didn't drop out. See, you come to a meeting and you say, well, I know all of this. No, you don't. Why is it that when you pick up the books, you open them, you see things that you didn't see before? The words haven't moved, it's you. If you come with that kind of an attitude, all you're saying is, you forgot what this was about. Or, guess what? You never really learned why God brought you here, or you don't even know that the Supreme Being handpicked you. You might act a little different if you ever came to realize that. Can that be proven? Can it be proven that each person in the Nation of Islam is handpicked by God? Yes. How can you do it? If we talk long enough, one-on-one. I know by the help of Allah, from what I know of this teaching, I can prove to you from the stuff coming out your mouth. I don't care how hard you fight it. You were handpicked, and way down in you, you knew it a long time ago, but you've been fighting it. You felt something special about yourself when you was in the grave. You expressed it all kind of ways, mostly negative. One way you said is, don't nobody understand me. Talk about how weird you are. You probably was. There's a whole lot of people. Some of you say, well, he or she or I was very, very nasty and funky in the grave. You think Allah didn't know that? There's nothing that we have done on the funk side He don't know. And He factors the funk that we did into His resurrection of us. We have all kind of stupid statements that we make, such as I don't want to come down there, I ain't ready yet. Or I ain't clean enough yet. Some of us said that. That is so ignorant. That's like your wife running a hot tub of water, foamy and nice and whatever is in it, and you come home and you don't want to get in it because you are not clean enough. It is as stupid as saying that. And I'm telling you, all the reasons that we give to ourselves, God, devil, everybody, for not doing what we should do, every one of them are Class A stupid. It's the last series of dumb things we say before we finally wake up. Because the next stage after all that stupidity is to get awoke. Follow me? The next stage after all those dumb comments, you can spend all night on that, is statements that make sense. You're just one step away from getting it together. And the more them dumb statements you make, you don't realize that you're showing symptoms that you're getting ready to get up. And when you deal with one another, oftentimes we misread. Like going on a fast, for example. Haven't you experienced going on a fast and you feel kind of bad and funny in the legs and whatnot? Now, a person who's knowledgeable say, but all that's good. Those symptoms are good. But you're feeling bad. They say, but it's good. Meaning they see what you don't see from the eyes of their knowledge. Brothers, you know how to, any of you automobile mechanics? Anybody? Anybody all know anything about what a miss is in a car? 2 brothers. Well, the average one of us don't know what a miss is. We don't hear it. But the mechanic, the person that knows about it, can hear the miss. But the person that doesn't have the knowledge can't hear it. Knowledge lets you hear and see what otherwise you can't hear and see. Knowledge makes you sensitive and aware of that which ignorance absolutely makes you unaware of. Renders you unaware. You're not even aware of it. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So now what we want to do tomorrow is just carve out a piece of supreme wisdom from the study that God made and that he gave to his servants, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we want to deal with a section of it tomorrow. And I didn't come well, so I don't care nothing about the problems you got. You got problems, I got problems. We can forget about that. We want to deal with that for about a minute and forget it. If you're poor, I'm poor. We don't want to waste no time with your problems. You just leave your problems at home tomorrow. Whatever you got that's going to get cut off, it ain't going to be cut off tomorrow. Hear what I'm saying? You come in here, your problem will be driving here without getting messed up on the snow and whatnot. Just get here. And then we deal with what we need to deal with. And after that's done, we leave out of here, or should leave out of here, more energized. We should. Have you ever heard of Tony Ayala? Any of you? How many of you would like to get out of debt? Now, I bought some tapes that Minister Kadir has. He got them for about a week or 2. I don't know how long he's had them. I can't deal with that now, but on those tapes, 2 of your brothers and our brothers, Minister from Louisville, Kentucky, and one Minister from Minister Jabril from Louisville, Kentucky, and Minister Thomas from Lexington, Kentucky, took about an hour. They know how they have mastered it, because they're proving it in their own lives. The knowledge of how to deal with credit bureaus, how to deal with it in a masterful way, how to get certain things wiped off, things that they have learned. So-called white folks insiders knowledge. You know, the Bible says that the slaves were learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. They just didn't know who they were. And you probably got some CIA people working in here. We're just good believers, huh? I don't know what you do, but my point is this. It's really immaterial. I don't care if you were paid a whole lot of money and you're here to do your thing. What are you going to bring back that they don't already know? The white folks don't have to send an agent in. They can just bug you. Sit down where you are and press a button and get the whole meeting. They got our literature. In fact, a lot of them know the teachings better than a lot of us. And we're going to spend a few minutes talking about people like that tomorrow, not much. I hope to show you a clip out of a CIA program called Inside the CIA. Did you see that one a few weeks ago on Frontline? Oh, you missed something. You missed something. And as I looked at it, one of the things I noticed was a lot of black folks worked for the CIA. But the information gathering and processing capacity of the CIA is out of sight. I don't know how it ranks among everybody else in the world, but it's monstrous. White folks can gather some information. Why can't they gather enough information to make them realize what they should do to stay here? I hope to get into that tomorrow too. And then the other thing I have is a program called Snitch that was on the front line. But there's a piece that I want you to see about the law, how it was put together that resulted in this large number of brothers who are in the penitentiary. And then I'm going to leave the tape with Brother over this weekend for him to make copies of how we do that, so that at some future date you can watch the whole thing. You need to watch. These are 2 important studies. Inside the CIA, that's right here. Where is the CIA? I don't even know where Langley is. Pardon me? Is that very far from here? 100 miles? Pardon me? 25 miles. So you know they can bug this meeting if they want, don't they? Huh? White folks got stuff in the sky, they can read words on a stamp. Okay, I thank you very much for your kind attention, and I hope you will make both meetings. And the second meeting Sunday, I want to conclude what I've been saying in other cities about why Farrakhan. Why Farrakhan? And I hope to make a simple point or two that I want to make exceedingly clear and try to do it in a rather rapid fashion, a very blunt, clear fashion. Sometimes, if you're just making a statement, it's always shorter than if you're trying to prove every single point. Next 2 days, I'm not interested in proving nothing. I'm interested in making some statements, giving you some information that's a reminder in some cases. In other cases, it may be new to some of you. How many of you have only been in the nation about 6 months? One brother. How many of you have been here a year or less? One sister. How many of you have been here 2 years or less? So you've been around here for a while then. You probably know all of this then tomorrow. So it'll be just a review. Good. I thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.